Masters of Change Show, bringing you real entrepreneurs, real experiences, and real advice, with big inspiration and a whole lot of soul. Whether you're looking to start or grow your business, hack life, or learn personal growth strategies, we are confident you'll hear game-changing ideas and perspectives here. Ready to learn? Always with a big smile, with your host, Bara Ali. Listen to the show 24/7 at www.mastersofchangeshow.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a great time to be able to launch the first episode of the Masters of Change Show, where I interview regular people who are successful and great at what they do, but had to undertake an incredible amount of change in their lives to get to where they are at today. I'm your host, Bara Ali, and it's a pleasure to present you with these life-changing stories that you can take many things out of and put them into practice in your life, personally and professionally. The show will be coming twice a week on Monday and Wednesday. Episode after episode, I am sure you will be inspired, thrilled, and take so many new ideas and put them into practice. This is the first episode of the show, and I'm pleased to bring you a very unique and inspiring entrepreneur who I admired and got inspired by his personality, persona, and humbleness after I met him for the first time. Today, I'm interviewing my good friend, Joel Primus. Joel is the president and founder of Naked Incorporation. While in high school, Joel won back-to-back track and field provincial championship in the 3,000-mile and 1,500-mile. Joel also still holds many running records at his high school. Joel graduated his high school with a full scholarship to High Point University to run track and field and cross country, but just a year later, an Achilles tear ended his running career. Inspired by his exposure to performance apparel during his athletic career and luxurious fabrics while traveling South America, Joel sought to create Naked. His vision was to create an innovative apparel brand that would combine performance and luxury to redefine the way clothing worn close to the skin fits, feels, and functions. In the promotion of Naked, Joel has raised over $10 million in venture capital and appeared on CBC's Dragons and Den program 3 times. In addition to Entertainment Tonight Canada, E-Talks in Canada, Urban Rush, Shaw TV's The Express, and Fanny Kefir Show. Joel was recently selected as one of the BC Business's top 30 under 30 entrepreneurs and has funded the creation of multiple computer labs in Ghana through his charity Project World Citizen. In 2014, his company relocated to New York City, where he lives with and works with his wife and child and one on the way. How are you doing, Joel?
I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic.
I have to ask you before we start, and I apologize because we haven't seen each other in over a year now, a few years now.
Yeah.
Do you still have that fantastic man bun? That glorious hair, or did you cut it all off?
No, I cut it all off. I actually donated it to the Terry Fox Foundation.
Good.
Yeah.
It went to a good cause.
Exactly.
But I had major hair envy of you. I'll just let you know that now.
Good to know. Thank you very much. I had a hard time letting go of it. Like for the first 3 months after I gave it away, I used to wake up in the middle of the night dreaming, where is my hair? And literally. And when someone walks by with a long hair, I look at them. It's like my hair. I remember my hair is like I want to touch their hair. Yeah.
Well, you know what? At least you've done it. You could say you've had that glorious
Absolutely.
hair. Absolutely.
So. As my dad say, you lived like a hippie for quite some time. So,
I'm still trying.
Yeah. So it was quite, a journey, but I'm glad I was able to give it away and not cut it and throw it out, but give it to someone or an organization that would make a better use of it. So
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so Joel, this is about you. Tell me, my friend, I want to talk about your journey. How did you start? So let's talk a little bit about you. Can you tell me a little bit about your background in terms of Naked? I mean, I want to share your story with the audience. So tell me about Naked and how it started.
Thank you very much. Naked is a bit of it's certainly an interesting journey how everything found its way to where it is now. You know, I don't know if you knew this, bro, but my background was actually running. I was a very good runner, and I was really fortunate in my early career in high school to represent Canada internationally at the World Championships. I qualified for a number of world teams, and I had this full ride scholarship down to a university in North Carolina to run track and field and cross country. And as a young athlete, I really did believe that my whole life was laid out in front of me all the way to the 2012 Olympics. That was my goal. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to run at the 2012 Olympics. Wow. But in my freshman year, I ended up rupturing my Achilles. And it took a long time to heal. And through the process, I ended up losing my scholarship and eventually my place, on Canada's world team. And eventually I ended up leaving the sport entirely at a very early age. And so I kind of went through this very early life crisis of who am I and what am I going to do now? Yeah. And I was sort of identified as this runner growing up in a small town, and everyone knew me to be Joel the runner. And I was actually really ashamed that I'd quit running, and I couldn't take the questions of, how's running going, or why aren't you running anymore? And it got to the point where it was too much for me to handle. And so I ended up hitchhiking across the country to get away from all the noise. Okay. And so I literally just walked out my front door and I hitchhiked across the country. And it was this amazing trip where I really believed that if I just put my life in the hands of the universe, of the unknown, it would guide me, and guide me it did, but not necessarily in the way I thought it would. I ended up spending some time in Asia, in England, and I fell in love with travel. And I came back to Canada with the idea that I wanted to film a travel documentary around the world. So my first project and my first actual attempt at raising money was to try and raise money to film this project around the world. I called it Project World Citizen. And my brother and I, we raised, I think, $1,000 or something ridiculous like that, maybe even less. And the rest of it was self-funded. And we went from Mexico all the way down to Santiago, Chile, pretty much hitting every single country along the way and capturing this amazing journey. But it was, there was elements of it that fumbled along, that it didn't, it was beautiful and inspiring, but this film, it just wasn't working. We got robbed a number of times. Our camera fell off a cliff in Bolivia, and it was sort of spiraling. And when I was in Peru, I was in desperate need of some underwear. This is 100% true story. I swear to you. I've been traveling for a long time. I needed some underwear. So I bought some beautiful Pima cotton underwear from a street vendor. Peru is known for its Pima cotton. And I thought this stuff was beautiful. And then I hiked up Machu Picchu wearing the product. Okay. And I did not like how it performed. I thought that it didn't, hold moisture well. It chafed a little bit. And so this idea started to germinate in my mind of how do I create a sort of a superior pair of underwear to this. It was never my intention to be in the underwear business. It was just an idea to create a beautiful pair of underwear that was, so comfortable. No matter what you did, it felt like you were wearing nothing at all. So after I got back, my brother had decided not to come back. He ended up traveling over to Holland and England and spent a lot of time over there. So I was kind of trying to make this film with the footage that we'd shot, and I was playing around with this idea of making a beautiful pair of underwear. Okay. And I was searching fabric stores, and I was trying to find designers, and I ended up making this this pretty cool pair of underwear.
Okay.
But nobody, when I did it, nobody really took the idea seriously. It's like, what are you doing? You don't have a fashion background and you're trying to get into the underwear business.
You designed it yourself?
Yeah, no,
okay.
I did. I mean, I had a partner at the time, who, we did it together. And we got a call from Dragon's Den.
Okay.
And so we had this pair of underwear, and we had this great name, Naked. We thought it was a fantastic name. Underwear so comfortable you don't feel like you're wearing it. And Dragon's Den calls us, and it was very clear in the interview that we were not ready to go on the show. No sales, no stores, no business background, no business plan, just
of course
a cool product. But that's not really how my mind operates. There's an opportunity, and I'm jumping on it. Okay. So I said yes, and we flew out on. I think my mom donated her credit card points because we had no money, and we got to the show, and the producers of the show told me, if you want your episode to air, you have to do the pitch in your underwear. Okay. So my business partner and I stripped down, and we asked for $150,000 to start this business called Naked. And Brett Wilson ended up calling us delusional, and Kevin O'Leary laughed us away. But one thing happened that was all that needed to happen. Mm-hmm. And that was Arlene said, I'll buy 100% of this company, and I'll put up $75,000. Wow. Now, I obviously it crossed my mind to try and strike a deal at $75,000, and I think I just maxed out 2 credit cards to buy the actual name Naked, from a trademark perspective. So I was like, wow, that's triple our money. but that was not the ambition I had at that point. It was to it was to do something far bigger. So we ended up walking away without a deal. But when the show aired, her saying that validated the idea of Naked to the public. Of course. It was otherwise it was a tad humiliating, but I didn't really think about any of that. I thought that this person just validated this idea by wanting to buy 100% of it. And so I used that little bit of leverage, and over the course of the next year, and through some great connections, and really the support of my small hometown of Abbotsford, where people kind of banded together to do what they could to help see this get to the next level. We raised about $140,000. Wow. And it was just enough to get the business off the ground. Of course. And I, marched myself into the offices of Holt Renfrew and the Bay, and I said, I want an order. And, we were able to convince Holt Renfrew, one of the nicest stores in the country, to give us an order. So all of a sudden it appeared that we were on the fast track, that we had done it. We'd raised some money. We had the great order, all in a relatively short period of time. But unfortunately, this is where not having any understanding of the business comes back to bite you in the ass a little bit. Right. Is that I found out after making about 40,000 pairs that my underwear didn't fit big guys. Didn't fit anyone who was a large or an extra large. Okay. And so I'd spent all the money, and there's this vivid discussion I remember having with my business partner at the time, who say, we should just order 4,000 pairs. Why are you ordering 20,000 pairs? And I said, because we're going to be huge. I just know it. And if I'd taken his advice, the whole trajectory of the company might be a little bit different, but that wasn't our journey. So, to make a long story short, we were able to address that problem, and over the course of the next few years, we raised more money. We got the product into Nordstrom's across the United States. Men's Health reviewed it as being one of the best to wear under suit. Esquire said it was one of the best to wear to the gym. It was in the New York Times. Amazing. The Amazing Spider-Man wore it underneath his costume in the movie, and all these great things were happening. And we had our issues, which we can talk about later, but I had this realization at that point, in the face of success as well as in the face of failure, is that I really needed a partner who was an industry expert, somebody who could grab this and help us, get this to the next level, someone who could mentor me along the way, someone who could could help guide the whole thing. And I started going to New York, and I found this amazing person named Carol Hockman, who is an industry icon. She has worked with Oscar de la Renta, polo jockey. She ran a $160 million business called the Carol Hockman Group, and had just recently sold it.
Wow.
And I asked her to be my CEO. And it took a few years to get that deal done, but together we raised about $7.5 million.
Incredible.
Which made, I think at that time we'd raised over $9 million in the history of the company. And just recently, I moved to New York City with my family, and we and together we're now taking the company Naked to the next level. So that's a real quick
overview
version of the last 6-7 years of my life.
Incredible. I mean, and you had a busy life, and growing a company, and as you said from the show, gave you credibility because of the reputation of the person there. And that's I don't know. You can tell me. Most people who go on these pitch, like Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, they're looking for the PR, not necessarily for the money. Is that true from your perspective?
I was definitely looking for the money the first time. I've been on the show twice.
Okay.
3 times if you include just like a little follow-up thing. But I was invited back to a Second Chance episode, and it's kind of funny that the first time I was on, I had a real big chip on my shoulder, and I was confident, and I was like, I'm going to do this, and I had nothing. I had no reason to be confident, and the second time I had a little bit of a business, and I was scared out of my mind because I'm like, these guys could roast me, and I desperately need the money, but I also, we need the attention so we can grow our sales. So it was really funny to think that, 2 years down the road when I went back on, I was way more nervous than the time I went on the first go around. But so the second one was definitely more PR driven. The first one was definitely more money driven.
And that's when you have a vision, I guess, at the beginning.
It works.
Yeah, it works. Yeah. Absolutely. And I guess the grilling is such an incredible skill that not a lot of people grill you that way. So, and give you that.
I've pitched lots of investors in my life, and nobody's quite done to me what the Dragons have done to me. So, that is, you earn your stripes, I guess, by going on that show and taking it from them.
Absolutely. And they are focused on media, so they also want to get an action from bringing these people. So that's not necessarily also always an investor necessarily for great ideas, but also they are an entertainment program that they're looking for stories, but at the same time characters that can get people thinking and have fun.
I realized that very, very harshly the first time when I had to take off my clothes to pitch. I realized no other investor has asked me to do that. So that's a good thing, I guess.
Well, it's a show business. So you got to show what you pitch. I think it makes sense. Like if you have a food, and instead of telling people about the food, give them to taste it and have a taste of it. So if you have an app, get people to launch the app and try it. If you have a naked boxer brief, wear it and see how it looks like. So I guess from that perspective, from a show business, it's a good. But also from your perspective, I remember seeing the episode, the first one, and remember the reaction, and it gave right away the perspective that this is what we're doing. This is the product.
Absolutely. We had conviction. Even there's this old Richard Branson saying that I live by, even still today, although a little less than I did previously, which is, fake it till you make it.
Right.
And I was really, I adopted that philosophy to my very core in the beginning, sometimes to my detriment, but I believe ultimately to get myself farther in the business, and it worked.
Absolutely. So you, Joel, you had no business background, correct? Like you, in terms of a field of study or field of education, nothing to do with business.
There was I think a one business 100 class at the UFV, and I think I I don't think I failed it, but I think I failed the final exam, so it was not a good sign.
But I guess I don't think it's with your story and your success and what you were able to do it. I don't think it really matters in terms of this. But your willingness, seeing you and your willingness to learn and being there, and I think a lot of just like you learn on the spot, and a lot of what you learned was probably on the spot. Tell me a little bit about it. Is it necessarily to have a business background in order to make it? Maybe at the beginning, you've seen it. So I want to hear it from your perspective.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic question, because I think the answer is both. I've obviously seen many people who have a business background and who are incredibly successful, and who maybe even are successful faster because of the knowledge that they bring into it. And it's not that it's a race. It's just that, there is some perspective brought into their startup via the case studies that they've learned. My philosophy has always been to surround yourself with the people who are 10 times smarter than you.
Absolutely.
And let them teach you and work with them and put the right people on the right seats,
correct.
on the right bus.
That's right.
And take it forward.
That's right.
I think that the one thing that's going for an entrepreneur is a bit of, well, why can't it be done? A bit of that. I'm not saying by any means that someone who has a business degree comes and says, well, I know that can't be done because I've seen X, Y, and Z scenarios where it hasn't been done.
Correct.
By no means is that 100% true. But an entrepreneur has that beautiful ignorance that is, I feel it in my gut. Yeah. And I'm going to do anything I can to see that through. So
absolutely.
The most important thing for an entrepreneur is to really understand their limitations in that process.
Correct.
And fill it out. But, there's no shame in saying I have. Excuse me. To say I have all the answers is a total lie. Nobody does. So you have to admit that, and then put those people in place, like I said.
That's right. And was it hard at the beginning? Because I hear it's something that is hard sometimes for people at the beginning, thinking that you know everything, and how to do the asking. Is that something, tell me a little bit about this experience. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, I've had a big personal transformation through this process. And I think that in the beginning, I actually did believe I had a lot more of the answers, and I had to learn the very hard way that I didn't. And I was humbled many, many times. And it was certainly hard to be humbled so many times, but it's a bit of that wearing down process that brings you back to your true core. And I had a wonderful mentors. Who stuck with me. I had an incredible business partner who is one of my best friends.
Excellent.
And he really, he was a CPA, a UFE graduate. So he brought a lot of that expertise, and he helped me ask those questions. Right. I would be lying if I said I knew them all myself. He was the other half of my brain.
Incredible.
So, yeah, and we have to. I don't think any man is an island. I think that, some are pretty close, but I'm not. So I need an island full of people to find my way out.
Yeah, and it's true because, as you said, sometimes not all of us have the answers for everything, and sometimes we think we know that we have the answers, and I think that's the realization. And did it take you some time to realize that you didn't have the answer? I mean, how much time did you spend in thinking that you really have the answers before realizing that holy crap, I need to bring someone or some people in that can help me?
Too much time.
Yeah.
I actually have a book being published in May about this very thing.
Okay.
The book is called Getting Naked.
Getting Naked.
And it is about that process of self-realization. It is about the shedding of ego and the journey that we go through. and it is by no means the success story of Naked, because Naked's not a success story. Naked is not $1 billion company. It's not $100 million company. It's about the journey that young people can go through.
Absolutely.
And getting naked is the metaphor to finding yourself. And so, for me, I had a harsh start, and I think it took, 2 years before I found some peace with it and was able to really start doing things right.
Absolutely.
And it stemmed from having that latched on identity as a runner,
right,
and that little bit of fame and notoriety as a runner, where you're in the paper and you start to identify yourself as this thing, and then you lose that thing. And to fill that void, when you're not comfortable enough with yourself, you think you have to fill that void with something. And I filled it right to the bloody top with ego. That I was, and that ego was a good thing and a bad thing. The ego was an incredible driver to be successful. But in order to be really successful, I had to look myself in the mirror and say, who are you? Why do you have to pretend that you're way more successful than you are? You are who you are. You are where you are in your journey, and and that's okay. You don't have to be, Mark Zuckerberg on day one. And so, I struggled with that for a while. But like I said, I had incredible mentors who stuck with me, and I had a business partner who stuck with me. And
amazing.
And I'm still on that journey.
Brilliant. I mean, it's a continuing journey, never stops. The learning and refining, and it's not like you close it. It's a company moving forward, and I guess you learn every day. You learn a new strategy, and you try to apply it in your business in order to take it to the next level.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you said you have a book that has been released, or has it?
No, it comes out in May.
In May.
So it's a year away.
Next May.
It was actually supposed to come out in September, but we've made some changes, and we decided to push the launch until May.
Brilliant! I will have the information for the audience in the future when they review this.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been a labor of it's been a passion project since day one. I felt that a lot of books are written. Business books are written sort of after people have had their success, and you automatically, I think, have that gap between the entrepreneur and the person who is successful. And I thought, why not write the book about the grind? That's not the success story. Write it when you're in it.
Absolutely.
And see what that could mean for somebody. So we'll still see. I hope people find it helpful.
I can't wait to read it, because I've known you for some time, and what I was intrigued, what I liked about you as a person is how humble you are, what you were able to do and accomplish, and how much the hell you went through it in order to make it, and that keep you humble, and no ego at all. Maybe that's something in each one of us, but you're humble as a person, and that's something I appreciate, and I still remember.
Well, you as well.
Thank you.
You as well. I've always admired so many things about your persistence and all that you've accomplished in a short period of time here.
Thank you. I much appreciate it, and I think it goes both ways. I still remember the day when we met at in the cafeteria, and we spoke about the magazine that you had planned
Sapera.
for. Yeah,
Sapera. A funny story about that. About how things lead to other things. How things happen. How you have to trust the process. Steve Jobs always talks about, if you look back in your life, you can see how all the dots connect.
Absolutely.
But people have a hard time then taking that same trust and confidence and looking forward in their life. And we get all caught up in moments to say, well, this isn't going to work. Well, this was a waste of time. And I don't believe any of it was. And I think the Sapera magazine was the perfect example, because, I started that with this, thinking that I was going to have the coolest little lifestyle magazine. And I worked really hard at it. Yeah. But what it got me, I tried to sell it to the Abbotsford News. I tried to sell it to them, and they didn't They didn't buy it, but they gave me a job. They said, we're really impressed with everything that you've put into this. Why don't you come work for us?
Okay.
And so I was broke. I had, 2 maxed out credit cards and I needed some money. Yeah. So, I took the job, and they were so wonderful. They, I only worked there for a few months because what ended up happening was that in that process is when some investors came on to Naked. But
I see.
And the craziest piece about it was my largest investor in my first round of financing was my boss at the news.
Okay.
So, if I hadn't done Sapera, and if I hadn't tried to sell it to them, and if I hadn't taken the job, I would have never had him. And he has now since gone on, left the news, started a publishing company, and is publishing the Getting Naked books. So
Amazing.
that's the whole circle of it, how it all happens.
Incredible. That was the end of the first episode of the Masters of Change show. You can listen to part 2 of the interview with Joel Primus at mastersofchangeshow.com. If you like the episode, please subscribe on iTunes, like our page on Facebook, and share your favorite part with your friends and family. Until the next episode, have a great day.
Masters of Change Show, bringing you the most unique, brilliant, and inspiring entrepreneurs who will share their expertise to help you start and grow your business or inspire you to follow your passion and live your dreams. With your host, and a big smile, Bara Ali. Listen to the show 24/7 at www.mastersofchangeshow.com.